we're going to get things started with a little update from Democrat world. Dems in full-blown freakouts over Biden, reports Politico. A pervasive sense of fear has settled in at the highest levels of the Democratic Party over President Joe Biden's re-election prospects, even among office holders and strategists who had previously expressed confidence about the coming battle with Donald Trump. All year, Democrats had been on a joyless and exhausting grind through the 2024 election, but now, nearly 5 months from the election, anxiety has morphed into palpable trepidation, according to more than a dozen party leaders and operatives. And the gap between what Democrats will say on TV or in print and what they'll text their friends has only grown as worries have surged about Biden's prospects. Well, that's how we know James Carville was not interviewed for this piece, because he seems to just be letting it all out on camera. He's not hiding anything. So
no, he's not, because no one listens to him anymore. He's got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
That's what he's clearly frustrated about. Nobody takes him seriously anymore.
Yeah. God damn it. You don't want to be that guy who is on the record saying we're doomed, or the campaign's bad, or Biden's making mistakes. Nobody wants to be that guy, said a Democratic operative in close touch with the White House and granted anonymity to speak freely. But Biden's stubbornly poor polling and the stakes of the election are creating the freakout, he said. This isn't, oh my God, Mitt Romney might become president. It's, oh my God, the democracy might ends.
Oh my God.
Literally, oh my God. Despite everything, Trump is running ahead of Biden in most battleground states. He raised far more money in April, and the landscape may only become worse for Democrats with Trump's hush money trial concluding, and another, this one involving the president's son, I guess that's Hunter, set to begin in Delaware.
Cat was named Vagina.
One advisor to major Democratic donors provided a running list that has been shared with funders of nearly 24 reasons why Biden could lose, ranging from immigration and high inflation to the president's age, the unpopularity of Kamala Harris, and the presence of third-party candidates like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Funny how the genocide in Gaza didn't make the prints. Maybe that was part of the dozens of reasons, or maybe it wasn't, but they really don't want to give much credence to the fact that Gaza is hurting him. And we're going to play a James Carville clip a little bit later where he kind of echoes the same thing. They really don't want to admit that because, you know, this reflects a certain bias. They can sustain a loss to Donald Trump. They'll raise a bunch of money off of that, and they'll go out there. They'll win the midterms. Get him next time. They can't sustain a collapse of the narrative surrounding Zionism. And so, you know, they seem to want to hide the ball there because I would say the unpopularity of Kamala Harris, while a factor, certainly, that's far less a factor than the fact that you're losing Arab voters and young voters in droves in states, especially like Michigan. And that could be the whole ball game there. But that didn't make this print list here. Donors ask me on an hourly basis about what I think, the advisor said, calling it so much easier to show them, so while they read it, I can pour a drink. Haha. The advisor added, the list of why we could win is so small, I don't even need to keep the list on my phone. There's still a path to win this, but they don't look like a campaign that's embarking on that path right now, says Pete Giangreco, a longtime, I like that name, Pete Giangreco. That's a good name. A longtime Democratic strategist who's worked on multiple presidential campaigns. If the frame of this race is what was better, the 3.5 years under Biden or 4 years under Trump, we lose that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Well, that's not good. I mean, that's certainly not, that's not a good dynamic going in. In the swing state of Michigan, as I mentioned before, Democratic State Representative Lori Pohutsky suggested Biden's standing is so tenuous that down-ballot Democrats can't rely in November on the top of the ticket to pull us along. In 2020, there was enough energy to get Donald Trump out, and there were other things on the ballot that brought young people out in subsequent elections. She said that's not the case this time. I worry that because we've had 4 years with a stable White House, oh yeah, particularly young voters don't feel that sense of urgency and might not remember how disastrous 2017 was right after the Trump administration took over. You talk about cope.
Yeah, they just don't remember all those years ago.
Yeah, they just
2017,
don't, yeah.
Lost in the mists of time.
They've grown spoiled at how good Biden has been. They don't remember what a disaster 2017 was. I don't remember a Ukraine war raging in 2017. I don't remember a genocide raging in 2017. I don't remember eggs costing $8 a gallon $8 a dozen, pardon me, in 2017. Like this idea that, oh, wow, they just don't remember how horrible they had it in 2017 compared to how stable the White House is right now. I mean, you talk about having your head up your ass.
Yeah, I have to look into this. Somebody on YouTube dropped a clip of Stephanie Rule saying the voters need to learn economics because they don't understand how good it is. Yeah, McDonald's. Not that I stand by everything I said in the Lizzo segment. Not that I'm suggesting anyone go eat McDonald's. But McDonald's is up 40% since 2019. 40 fucking percent. So hey, as our illustrious former once and future president might say, that's the ball game. That's the ball game. Yep. They can't afford anything. And even crazy ranting Carville in his meandering way actually hits on, all of the money is with the boomers. Of course, young people are frustrated. Frankly, I would love to say, on principle, they're really upset about Gaza. If the economy were great, would they be this upset about Gaza? Probably not, based on my experience. It's the combination. It's a combination of no opportunity and horrific genocide together.
Well, that creates the full picture of just an imperial power on the way out, for sure. Right. For sure. And I think more people will vote based on inflation than on Israel-Gaza. Sure. But I do think, especially in a place like Michigan, which I'll show you in a minute, that's really where this race is going to come down to, it looks like, I think. Trump, meanwhile, has already started his incursion into safe blue states. His campaign's psychological warfare in New York, California, and New Jersey. By psychological warfare, you mean campaigning? Is that what you mean? He's committing psychological warfare in New York. You mean having a rally in the Bronx? That's psychological warfare. Where House districts will determine control of Congress's lower chamber is spiking Democrats' already elevated blood pressure. New York Democrats...
Okay, to be fair, you know what they mean by that, though.
What's that?
That he's going into these safe blue states and psyching out the Democrats. Like, I don't think that's a bad faith use of that term.
All right. I mean, I guess I buy that. Well, it's not just psyching them out. It's like, look, I mean, there was a poll here. I think I included that in the slideshow. There's a poll here that had him down 9 in New York as opposed to down 23 last time.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you could say that's psyching them out, but even if he can't,
we don't do proportional electoral votes.
Of course, but what I'm saying is, even if he can't win New York, if he can make it close enough to force the Democrats to spend money there, which according to this article he is, then that has an effect because in a zero-sum world, that's money they can't spend in Michigan, right?
Hence psychological warfare.
Yeah. New York Democrats need to wake up, said Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. The number of people in New York, including people of color that I come across, who are saying positive things about Trump is alarming. They must have watched your piece there.
Welcome.
Your Braga piece.
Welcome. Hey, I have always said that. When I went out in 2016 campaigning for Bernie in Harlem, it was much more common for me to have young black men in particular tell me they were voting for Trump than to say they supported Hillary.
Right. Yep. I believe that. Biden's weaker numbers bear that out. A Siena College poll released Wednesday showed Biden leading Trump in New York by only 9 points, 47-38 among registered voters. 4 years ago, Biden won the state by 23 points. The president is underwater with every demographic delineated in the poll other than black voters. 53% of Latinos and 54% of whites reported having an unfavorable opinion of him. That's in New York, by the way. To that end, Biden released TV and radio ads in the Empire State on Thursday ahead of Trump's campaign rally in the Bronx. So, by shrinking those margins in New York, he's forcing the Democrats to run ads here. We in New York, we have people watching the show from, all over the country. you know, some of you guys who if you live in Pennsylvania, if you live in Michigan, if you live in Arizona, campaign season is plastered with wall-to-wall TV ads. We get very few of those in New York because it's a blue state. So at the presidential level, you see almost none of that.
Only in local races for primaries.
Yes. And we saw a little bit with Hochul versus Zeldin last year, since that was surprisingly close. I think she won it by about 5 or 6 points. But generally, at the presidential level, you see almost nothing. That might be different this year. But
remember in the Braga coverage, in the full coverage, where I had the Bruce Q. Wayne guy, he said Zeldin won. So what is this? Is this the default MAGA posture now? Like, if you lose, it was rigged?
Yeah, you just say you didn't. Right.
It was just you always won. It's impossible that Republicans or candidates that you support lose. They never lose.
It's impossible that a Republican lost New York.
Republicans never lose the governorship of New York.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That seems to be the go-to. But I do want to show this because we haven't nerded out like this in a very long time. But I do want to show you why, because, you know, the general consensus now is that Trump goes in the favorite. And I agree he's the favorite, but we've both said you can't really call it. You can't really call it at this point. And here's why. Obviously, the Roe factor is still a big question mark. The Republicans have not been able to answer that. But for all the bitching that Democrats do about the Electoral College, I want to show you guys just how stacked in their favor the Electoral College is. So here's the electoral map as it currently stands. Obviously, the pink and red are shaded Republican. The light blue and dark blue are shaded Democrat. So as it stands now, if the election were held today, conventional wisdom says Democrats would be at 226, Republicans at 235. Okay. So Trump is winning big in Georgia, so let's put that in his column. He's winning pretty big in Arizona. Let's put that in his column. And he's winning very big in Nevada, so let's put that in his column. This has to get you there, right? Nope. That puts you at 268. 268. Too short, which means if Biden puts these upper Midwest states blue, he wins. It's almost impossible for Biden to lose if he wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. The only state that could surprise you there is probably Minnesota. I guess that could go red. New Hampshire, maybe, but those are still considered pretty unlikely to go red. So if he holds the upper Midwest, look at that, 270 to 268. Here's a prediction. It could all come down to this district right here in Nebraska, Omaha, because they appoint their electoral votes differently.
Kornacki now.
Yeah. That's amazing. If all of New Hampshire goes red, it's 269, 269, which a tie goes to Trump because the Republicans have the House. But if the Democrats keep that blue, which I guess they're likely to at this point, that's your map, unless Trump can flip one of these upper Midwestern states. So going in conventional wisdom...
Isn't he leading big in Michigan?
Well, he is.
A shock in the polls? Yeah.
He is, and that's why I said earlier in the segment, I think it's going to all come down to Michigan. Like, it could all come down to the Arab voters in Michigan. This is why we're trying to finance a trip to Dearborn, because that could be the whole election right there. Turnout among young voters and Arab voters in Michigan could be Corinthians 2. That could be the whole ballgame. That could be the entire ballgame.
Oh, I got it right with the old lady? It was Corinthians 2?
Yeah, it was Corinthians 2. That's what we would title our Dearborn documentary. Corinthians 2. Dearborn 2024.
The ball game.
The ball game. The whole ball game. So if you look, I mean, the Democrats, because they flipped Virginia and Colorado to pretty safe blue, Trump still has to flip an upper Midwestern state. Now, if the race were held today, if the election were held today, he'd probably flip Michigan, and that would be it. But it looks like it's going to come down to that because apparently Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada still not enough. So the Democrats complain all day, every day about the Electoral College. Oh, it's not fair. We win the popular vote. We have to win the Electoral College. You got a pretty good grip on the Electoral College if you don't totally blow it. So that's why it's still a question mark. But Michigan could be everything. And to leave Gaza off of that list when you have a 17% voter rating among Arab voters in Michigan, that says you're not taking that problem with anywhere near the degree of seriousness that you should.
Please clap.